Hello, everybody. So welcome to our meeting, our webinar on Agenda 2030 and the SDGs for innovation and business success. We organized that in cooperation with B-Lab Switzerland and SDG Exchange, who will present today. And before I start, my name is Antonio Hauter, for those who do not know me, and we invite you from the beginning to keep 2 questions afterwards for the discussion in your mind. First of all, these presentations and tools we are presenting you, what does that create as a reaction for you? Is this useful? Is this helpful? What would you expect from it? And the other question we would like to ask you from the beginning and through the presentations is, what do you really need in your daily work, in your daily business? So take these 2 questions with you. And don't hesitate to ask questions and answers in the chat already. Fabienne will help me to not lose them. Fabienne is our trainee. She will tell me and open up the micro. And please do also intervene during the presentations if you want. Just unmute yourself and speak up. It should be an open meeting, not a very formal webinar. Okay? So even more people getting in. Hello, everybody. Also those on the phone. Welcome. I would like to give a first introduction. Why is the UN Global Compact doing this kind of activities? As you may have seen already in 2016, shortly after the publication of the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Global Compact launched this campaign, Let's Make Global Goals Local Business. Our past Swiss and now Swiss Liechtenstein Global Compact dialogues were always under this hat, if you want, under this theme. And it will go on until 2030 for sure, because, and that's what I will explain in a moment, it's one of our main missions to bring forward the UN agenda on 2030 on the Sustainable Development Goals. What I will present in the next 15 minutes is the 10 principles and the SDG Action Manager, the potentials and opportunities. I will stick to the more strategic questions. Jonathan Normand from B-Lab Switzerland will afterwards go into the technical details also of the SDG Action Manager. And I will here set the context. As most of you may know, there are also some Swiss Global Compact members, but most of you may know that the Global Compact was funded in 2000 and saw its birth at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Oh, I see it's wrong. It was 1999, not 2009 when it started. There we have a mistake in the slide. With this idea, I propose that you, the business leaders, and we, the United Nations, initiate a global compact of shared values and principles which will give a human face to the global market. There it started. And Ban Ki-moon was then pushing it strongly, and Antonio Gutierrez gave a clear mandate to the UN Global Compact to bring the Agenda 2030 and the SDG A into the private sector, and B, bring as many companies and people from the private sector into this UN agenda actively. And the whole discussion today is exactly about that. How can the private sector contribute to the achievement of the Agenda 2030 by doing business and be innovative and discover new ways to do business, which serves not only the business purpose, but also the global purpose. Since there can be no poverty eradication without generation of wealth, we should further promote the UN Global Compact, highlighting the benefits of corporate responsibility. It's about this responsibility of us, the private sector. In short, the vision, I already said it with the words before, is a more sustainable and inclusive global economy. That's the main purpose of our activities, with two objectives. The one is to make the 10 principles part of business strategy, operations, and culture everywhere, and internalize it. The 10 principles of the UN Global Compact are the ABC of responsible business conduct, of corporate responsibility and responsible business conduct. And the second one is take action. So implement corporate social responsibility, and support the sustainable UN goals and issues. That was formulated in 2002, and it's still valid. So contribution to the sustainable economy and progress and development through the Agenda 2030 and the SDGs for the moment until 2030. These are the 10 principles based on the 4 pillars: the human rights, the ILO norms, the labor norms, the Paris Agenda now, before it was Rio plus 20, and the anti-corruption principles. So you as UNGC members took the engagement and the obligation to improve your activities along these ideas year after year and report publicly about your progress. That's more the technical things where you get the methods, the instruments, etc. from the UN Global Compact. Most of you know that already. So what do we want? We want a true sustainable economy with a balance, the triple bottom line. You can enlarge it, but that's the basic of it, that we have the whole thing in a balance and not in a Mickey Mouse economy, where as soon as we have a crisis, just the economic counts, and that's not really sustainable. And the COVID crisis shows that. I think the other speakers will come back to this aspect again. An important part, this is in German, we have also the national action plans. So the Swiss government took up now these obligations, especially also the human rights due diligence. It's not mandatory, it's not very strong yet, but it's clear it's an expectation of the Swiss government to the private sector to fulfill these international guidelines we have, especially in the OECD guidelines and the human rights due diligence, the principles, the Ruggie principles. And this debate about the initiative now in the Parliament, as it shows, will go on, and it's important that we as private sector are actively involved in all that. To summarize, what do we want? We want a sustainable economy locally and globally. And for that we have, that's just a way to show it, the ABC are the 10 principles. We have the UN guiding principles for business and human rights. And we have the OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises. This is the responsibility we have as a private sector. And it's at the same time a huge opportunity. In my eyes, the Sustainable Development Goals offer the biggest and largest business opportunity we had since I don't know how many years. So the SDGs are added to all of this. These are the 3 steps we are expecting from you, and where we would like to support companies is act responsibly. So do your business decently, then find opportunities. That's what we are speaking about today. And then stand up, inspire, and advocate. Tell your stories. Be part of this global movement of civil society, business, and public actors who want to really create a world where also our grandchildren still can live in dignity, and where the planet and its ecological base is still existing. That's why we launched in 2015, in December, this Making Global Goals Local Business campaign, which will go on until 2030. And yeah, here just in short, I will use what Katrin Muff and the Business School Lausanne developed, the gap frame in the in 2017, if I remember right. It's true, the world is much better off than in 1951. So it's not that bad as it seemed to be, but there are still huge challenges, as also the COVID crisis was showing us. So, Fabian, could you check there are still people? Yes, entering. You let them in. Hello, everybody. I go on where we stay at the moment. So we have still huge issues to handle, and when in November 15 the SDGs were proclaimed and the Paris Climate Agreement was also accepted, this was a new era for us, the private sector. Here in Switzerland, it seems we are quite good in sustainable production. That's the one here. But it's also due to the fact that our producing industry especially was outsourcing and producing their more environmental intensive and CO2 polluting activities abroad. That strongly reduced our CO2 emissions on the one side. But if it comes to sustainable consumption, most of you have heard this story from me already a couple of times, there we are still in a very serious situation. We are having 2.8 to 3 footprints compared to the global resources we have here in Switzerland. So if the whole population of the world would live as we do, we would need 3 planets, and that is not possible. It's not sustainable. So we have a responsibility to change something. That's the gap frame for Switzerland based on the data of 2017. Thank you, Catherine, for this work. I use it in all my presentations. I think it's very speaking and shows where we have big challenges to do. We are convinced that responsible business is key to solving many challenges. And without the private sector, we will not be able to handle this. And that's why we want to mobilize a global movement of sustainable companies and stakeholders to create the world we want. That's the saying of the UN. So it's the world where all people and all beings can survive in dignity. So the 2 steps are: act responsibly, do your business decently, and make a do no harm analysis on the 4 pillars. Where do you have a negative impact? And then do opportunity analysis where you can contribute positively and contribute to progress through and development through the 17 goals and the 169 targets in the Agenda 2030. For this, we have developed a lot of papers and instruments. I just go through it very fast. I have 2 other minutes and then I will stop. So that's the SDG Compass. You can still download it. It's basic, you know that already. This program cycle process where we invite companies to do their work, and we will get more information afterwards. We have published 3 guides and analysis of goals and targets, which is very helpful to define first indicators where you could do, and then the practical guide to integrate the SDGs in your corporate reporting. And the 3rd one was published addressing investor needs. And we see, you may have seen it, Swiss Sustainable Finance and FNG Germany have just published their last reports, and the sustainable ESG investments have more than doubled within 1 year. So a new market is going up. There are definitely new opportunities also for the financial industries. The UNGC, UN Global Compact, tries to offer many instruments, and one of them, and now that's the point for today, is we introduced the SDG Action Manager together with B Lab on a global level. And in cooperation with Jonathan, who will speak just after me, we decided that the Global Compact Network Switzerland and Liechtenstein with B Lab Switzerland launch this and cooperate in this Swiss Triple Impact program we will propose you afterwards. The SDG Action Manager is now available for each and everyone over our website or the website of B Corp. The details you will have in a minute. Connected to that, and that's why we're doing this webinar, are our global impact initiatives. The members of UNGC, Young Global Compact, may know already. Most important in this context is the SDG ambition. We really want to mainstream the 10 principles and the SDGs, the global goals, into business strategy, operations, and stakeholder engagement. It will be an integral part of the requirements for our members, and we're looking for you to really help us to make that happen. Then gender equality and target climate 1.5 and other initiatives. So that is the SDG Action Manager. Jonathan will explain it also in details afterwards. You can use it as an individual, as a small group like an association, as a company, as an NGO, as a public entity, etc., to get an analysis where you stay and where you can go in the SDG agenda. I will not say more here. You can access it, and Jonathan will tell you the details afterwards. Where we stand at the moment, these are these platforms. I would like just to mention this one. Young Global Compact defines new level of ambition for corporate sustainability. So in these days, that's the post of yesterday, we really want to try to push with the high-level meeting of next week and the Leader Summit that we launch a new call to all companies worldwide to take up these responsibilities for the Agenda 2030. And I stop here and get out of the slides. And if you don't have immediate questions, I hand over to Jonathan. And now, yes, I have to stop. And Jonathan, you should be able now to show your slides.
Thank you, Antonio. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen right now. And just tell me if everyone can see the screen. So just perhaps a thumbs up. Fantastic. Thank you, Misha. Yeah, I'm super pleased to follow up on the introduction and good explanation about the why. So BLab is a global NGO, probably not introduced too much about who we are. We are well known for the B Corp movement, those certified company that should have the highest social and environmental performance, and also take the fiduciary duty to embed that into the company's strategies. We are running the Swiss Triple Impact program. It's a 3-year program at least that will happen in all regions of Switzerland. And we are super happy to launch this program with the support of the Global Compact Network Switzerland and Liechtenstein, also with the support of Partner for New Economy and the Land Foundation. And we also get a support for the first year from the Swiss Agency for the Development and Cooperation. And thanks to them to allow us to start the build-up phase. More and more workshops happen already, and I can see some names that already follow up some of our workshops, so you might be already aware. So just as an introduction, who is BLab? So I would say our key mission is to bring tools and standards and technology to allow any company to measure what matters. So to take in account their governance practices, worker, community, environmental, and also their impact in their business model. And for that, we have set various tools and technology for that. The B Impact Assessment has been launched in 2006 in the first version. Now we are running the version 6 as today. And based on this technology and through the partnership with the UN Global Compact Global, we had the SDG Action Manager features. So basically, and I will introduce that in detail, a way to measure the contribution on each SDG and target. So don't want to spend too much time on who we are, but just and some reflection in this dialogue about what Antonio mentioned. There is question of risk management here. We are talking about sustainability, about contribution, about doing more, doing good. The question is also business-wise a question of risk management. I'm sharing the global risk report from the WEF that every year produce this global risk report. And as you can see, all the greatest economic risk that arise from the climate change and the biodiversity collapse remain at the top of the agenda. And this is more and more the case year by year. There is other major risk, but just to give you a point on, this is risk management. So setting the sustainability strategy at the top of the agenda of the company is not anymore just a do-good strategy and a side strategy. It's really become the new normal and should be addressed if you want to remain connected with your various stakeholders. And I mean stakeholder, the internal one and the external one, like the consumer, or either, as mentioned, Antonio, the investors that are looking for companies that are contributing for the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. What I like sharing here in the Global Risk Report is really this interconnectedness of those risks, and that just point clearly that we need a framework and a common understanding aside of an agenda, a timeline. And that's what we believe SDG offer aside of the Agenda 2030. So the company have a framework, can set goals, can set targets, can operationalize the SDG in their practices, in their operation, and aside, they have a common agenda. So we have a 10-year windows that is basically the surviving plan of the humanity as the science confirm it every day. So just to say, and I will not talk about too much the resilient aspect, but I guess, yes, the post-COVID definitely shown and demonstrate that sustainable business are more resilient in crisis, and sustainable company could even take opportunities in such moment, and even difficult moment. The 17 goals I will not talk too much about. I guess you're all well informed about that. Just one point that need to be clearly said here. These 17 goals and the 193 government that have signed and take those commitments also clearly said that without the business, we will never achieve them. So we need a massive contribution of the private sectors to achieve them, because that's the only way we can make it. So this is just for the introduction, and I always like to address the risk question and the risk driver in such conversation, because that's a key point. That now, at the country level, we are engaging various engagement programs since the past 10 years across the world, and we decided, and I decided to launch this architecture in Switzerland, this Swiss Triple Impact, and I will give you kind of a flavor of what it is. Based on the vision that I already mentioned, we need to equip business with the right tool, the right knowledge, and for that, we have a very strong ecosystem in Switzerland that can support that. So the idea is to build a movement, a dynamic about contributing to this triple bottom line or triple impact, which is people, planet, and prosperity. So the goals of the program is really to equip business to measure what matters. So to measure, so a business can't manage what they can manage what they can't measure. So equipping companies with the right tool, identify the opportunity for improvement, and then implement concrete action, which means taking pledge on specific SDG targets and make them public in the journey. So I will go in detail after on the tools and activities, which is, as I said, built on the B impact assessment technology, the B analytics, and the SDG Action Manager. But aside of the tool, we are running with the Swiss ecosystem in the various regions workshops. So training, introduction, to take those pledges, to learn more in detail about specific engagement or action, and how to operationalize them inside the company. We'll also organize a series of events, and I will just share that if you have an agenda close from your desk right now, just take the 16th of September as a date, which will be the public launch of the Swiss Triple Impact Program in Bern. This is the first time we mentioned it publicly, but the date has been confirmed. So super happy to confirm this date and to have all of you together in Bern, because I hope in September we will be able to meet in person and have a real contact. This program and engagement strategy is supported by two key drivers, which is the novelty of the program, which is mapping the private sector's, the Swiss private sector achievement in the SDG, so their contribution. And for that, we will set up online directory, a public directory of committed companies that have started to engage and contribute, and then also a benchmark, the first Swiss benchmark on SDG contribution based on our technology, based also on other tools that we have developed specifically for this program. So the program will be developed across probably by in 2021, 10 regional platforms. Today, we already have platform in place in Zurich, in Bern, in Fribourg, in Wallis, and in Lugano and Geneva. So we are setting up local ecosystem to support regional, at the regional level, the businesses that want to engage, and also through partners. And I will just dig into detail. So at a glance, our ambition is really to mobilize more or less 3,000 business in 3-year scales to join this program. It will be this unique national directory and benchmark that will be provided for obvious report purpose, but also to understand, where you stand on the journey, where you are, and how you can, and where on which topics you can improve our practices in this collective spirit of building this collective voice for progress and sustainable contribution. So we love to say, and that's why today we are with our friend from UN Global Compact Switzerland and Liechtenstein, and also SDG Exchange, that this program has been designed by and for the ecosystem. So we are running and operating this program in partnership with many players across Switzerland that might offer complementary things that we bring on the table on this program. And for that, we are super grateful and happy to always build a bridge with everyone. Not to say that this is not just a test. We already run in 2018 a pilot program called Best for Geneva, where we had more than 1,000 individuals that joined the workshop and participate individually. But at the end, 340 companies that have finalized the pathway, which was a combination of impact measurement with our tools and improvement and action. We run this program with the state of Geneva, aside of 30 other partners, and there is many ways that any companies that have value chains or that have network organization can join also here in the Swiss Triple Impact. So it's a pathway. We offer companies to join a pathway with 3 basic steps. We have run several introduction workshops, which are free, that will dig into detail the tool, understand what are the intent, and also have a quick start with the SDG Action Manager by fulfilling the baseline. So this is ongoing. You can find webinar online. You can find also some workshop that will happen in physical workshop, I would say. Now we have to clarify that. The second step is really the key and the core part of the pathway, which is to attend 2 workshops of half day to integrate the strategy and starting to identify where you stand and where you can improve, and then in the journey select pledges where you want to engage and improve over the period of time that is relevant for the company. That's why we are not launching a quick, nice 2 months program and every company will become the better company in the world. It's really designed to last and to also confirm that company needs sometimes for improvement a time for. So we set a timeline of 5 months, but that might be more depending the pledges and the commitment that the company take. And during this time, we will offer a series of thematic workshop and other resources to help the company in the journey. The next step and the last step, the third step, will be to register into the national STI directory, which will be the first national directory where company will disclose their commitment and will be supported by B-Lab Switzerland and some academics, because we will run a performance review to ensure that the company, is claiming the right commitment. And then, there is also a kind of a communication strategy around. We will set various case study and reports to engage others. So, it's a collective movement, it's a collective action, and it's a collective voice. And I guess a lot of people will also be inspired by seeing other company joining the journey. And I guess in the UN Global Compact, Switzerland and Liechtenstein network or signatory, there is many players that might become a case study, for example. So happy to follow up on the one that already contact us, and for the new one that might want to join to be. The Swiss Triple Impact is a very it should be a vehicle for also innovation, and Antonio addressed well the question of opportunities and innovation, and for that B-Lab Switzerland have candidated for one national team network innovation booster program, which is a 4-year program to support sustainable innovation. The innovation cluster that we created called Regenerative Economy Switzerland. We already got a lot of partners, as you can see, companies, civil society organization, but also academic that want to work on specific topic that you can easily connect to the SDG targets and goals. So let's wish that we will be selected. We're gonna have the answer probably in the coming days or weeks about that, but that will be the piece of the puzzle for innovation on the program. And again, this is only feasible and viable with this approach of building bridge with the ecosystem on the at the regional level. So SDG Action Manager, just for talking about tools and the technical part of it, is it's much better that I just perhaps show you the tool in a minute. What do you think? Because I can talk about how it has been designed. I've been myself one of the
just show it shortly so people get a feeling what it is.
Yes, and then just all done. I'm just logging into it. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So fantastic. So, as you have seen in the screen of Antonio, this is an online platform that is available in 5 languages so far. German, hopefully next year. Hopefully, we are trying to get funds for that, but that is definitely one of the goals. So you have a kind of an interface with various menu here. Then you can dig into first the baseline. So you have always to fill out the baseline, and this baseline will allow you to identify the right key SDG that you might tackle first. And so it's a 30 to 40 question, depending the size of the company. And then each question might be asking you to put some metrics or answer some question. Like if I take the corporate citizen program, we will ask the company, how does the company take part in civic engagement? And then you can select various options, and this will score your contribution on this topic. For each question, you will have also what we call a knowledge center. So you have a guidance that we also point to a guidance that the UN Global Compact have released, but also other organization on each topic. So you find explanations, sometimes some example, and the way to implement them. So it's what we call a mini knowledge center for operationalizing such practices. Just to mention that we have designed also the SDG Action Manager in collaboration with the World Benchmark Alliance, which allow us to select per sector of industry specific SDG that matter most for you. But as you know, with the interconnectedness of all SDG, you might extend it to many others. So once you have fulfilled the baseline, basically, you will be able to dig into all SDG specifically, if we, for example, the number 5, the gender equality, and then identify practices, identify metrics to see how much you contribute already and what you can do more. So there is some reporting failure. I'm going quick over those failure. I guess the best way to take a look at it, it's really to test it. But then you have some reporting feeders, like you can see how much you earn, and then the contribution that you have on each sectors, with also the risk level on each SDG. So that's a mini reporting feeder that allow you to also have a broader view on your SDG contribution. And we will, in the back end, aggregate the result and create specific report and benchmark based on that element to correlate per sector, per size of company, per region, the Swiss private sector contribution. There is many features on the tool. You can also select improvement based on the answer that you have put on the various assessment questions. So yeah, have a look on the tool. There is also some specific library for the UN Global Compact signatories, so you can access this function here with a lot of resource and tool to help you to move forward. As you can see, this is fully integrated with the B impact assessment. The B impact assessment is our first evaluation tool. It's really the core of our mission, and this is more dedicated for we say applying for the B Corp certification. It's available, but focus on the SDG Action Manager. Here's the point. So probably you might have some question, and happy to answer to them right after, just to move forward on the presentation here. I guess I have a couple of minutes left, or probably I'm out of time. I don't know. Just to say that, yeah, this program.
Oh, you have still some time. You're good in time. That's fine.
Okay, thank you, Antonio. So this program, it's on the participation step 2 and step 3. It's a fee-based program. Member of the Global Compact Network Switzerland, through our partnership, will get reduction fee on the fee. So, but also with other partner, we just announced 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce of Zurich that will also allow her member to get some reduction on the fee. So that's also how we developed the program to make it accessible. And as you can see, the price is not the real investment for the company. The real investment is the resource that the company will dedicate, and the action and the investment on the action that they will take that will really cost something for the company. I'm just jumping quickly on that and really connect with this ecosystem question about what companies, what are the roles that our economy and the companies can play. They can play the participant, simply joining the program and going on the pathway, but they can also play a role like what we call the value chain activator. So we offer specific services for large national company or large company that want to engage their value chain. So they want to also measure how their value chain suppliers or partners are addressing the SDG or addressing the sustainability. And then aside of that, we have what we call the network amplifier, which are Chamber of Commerce and network organization or business organization across Switzerland. And we will be super happy to disclose many of them by September. So we have a very good answer from the market so far, even with this period of COVID and crisis. There is many benefits. I guess I will not mention each of them, but 2 are key. The first, I will reset here the risk management. If business should embrace sustainability as a new normal, it should be taken as a risk management approach, and that's what such program can help company to progressively increase their commitment, increase their understanding, to holistically address all the sustainability question in their activity and in their impact. There is many drivers that happen in Switzerland. One of them is probably the enforcement of a new law on the public procurement. You probably hear that by January 2021, we will have a new law at federal level that will set by law to take the price question at the same level of the social and environmental commitment. And that's a big change. It's a 40 billion market in Switzerland. It's 10% of our GDP. So how we can equip as maximum companies to be able to disclose and share what they are doing in such commitment, because that will become a criteria, like it's already a criteria in many procurement process in the private sectors when you want to tend to a procurement or sorry, I lost my word, when you want to bind to a procurement. Last but not least, but we also, because as you know, this is challenging to create a momentum in Switzerland about, you know, engaging company for that. So we are going to launch several global campaigns in Switzerland via various methods online, but also presential with events, but also in presence with in various train stations, for example, to just basically put in the collective consciousness that there is a vehicle, there is something for every company that want to contribute, whatever the capacity, whatever their industry, everyone can contribute at the internal level, at the external level, at the supply chain level, and for that, if you want, you can, for the one that want to join the program, also follow up online, and I will basically stop here. To engage a conversation, I don't know, or answer some of the question. So yeah, super happy to and thankful for all our partners that make this program launch possible, and definitely stay tuned on that, because we have many new partners that are knocking on the door right now, and so it sounds to be a good vehicle designed to be launched and to be set up with ecosystem partners. So also we are super open to welcome everyone that have something to contribute. And I guess the work that just follow me with Barbara and Catherine Muff with the SDG, or it's also the project of Antonio. I guess you're on the board of this project too, or on the advisory board. So this project of SDG Exchange, that is definitely complementary, and I guess a very nice interface to move forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Can you take back, stop the Bildschirm share, the screen sharing?
Should be okay right now.
It should. Then I just put this one back. Thank you. Before I hand over to, does it work? Do you see mine?
Yes, it's working.
Okay, it's working. So thank you, Jonathan, for this part. Just there may be also questions raising up. One important point is, whatever company you are, either advanced or beginner, you have a possibility to use the SDG Action Manager as starting tool, and then also get into the whole program. And the program has the huge advantage that you have knowledge, you have exchange, etc. So that's why we really propose this program also mainly for middle-sized and smaller companies, because they are not very familiar with the SDGs yet, but also for large companies it can be a huge opportunity. Jonathan, just you may say, how much time does it take to make an analysis of a company? I got the feedback from some of my members, if you do it really seriously, you may invest until you have all the data 1 to 2 days to get a first analysis. Is that true?
I guess to answer the question, it depends the size of the company, her current maturity in the data management. So there is, you know, there is no general answer to such question. I guess that there is many contextual elements that can say, we have seen company, I would say mid-sized company of 200 employees fulfill it in a half day with a team of 3 people inside the company. But we also had the case of company that need to, because they probably address the question of the metrics for the first time, so they need to gather the data. So yes, I would say that might be an appropriate, and this is also part of not fulfilling the tool for fulfilling the tool. I guess
sure.
The question is really to join those workshops, to be we have series of co-facilitators that will help you to target the right element to tackle, because you can, you know, there is 17 goals, there is, you know, from 200 to 500 element inside the SDG Action Manager, so you can get lost in the journey. I mean, we need to prioritize to select the right SDG and an action that is relevant for the company.
Yeah, and that was also one of the points of the larger companies who are already SLP and other instruments in place. So you have to analyze quite well what really makes sense, and these workshops may help you to decide afterwards what is the right process to go on. So that's why I think it's an interesting approach, really, to get as many companies as possible from Switzerland into it, to show also in Switzerland that we can make a difference. And Jonathan and myself, and afterwards also Barbara and Katrin, are here to support you in the questions you may have. That said,
Antonio, sorry
yes?
to interrupt. Can you maybe mute and unmute yourself, or is someone else having audio issues? I've got some notifications in the chat. Is everyone else hearing Antonio?
Yes, I can hear Antonio well.
Maybe.
Yeah, the little sounds behind is coming from Antonio's computer.
Maybe, Danny, if you try to log out yourself and join in again, I'll let you in if it's another issue. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Oh, you're still muted now, Antonio, sorry.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, that's fine. I hope now it works. You hear it. Good. SDG Exchange. So I hand over to Barbara and Katrin. It's another approach. It's about innovation. I don't say more, but it fits perfectly in it's the third step for me. The basis is the ABC of UN Global Compact, and now the B Corp, SDG Action Manager, and the Swiss Triple Impact Program is really to push the whole thing. And now we hear about innovation. Barbara, Katrin, I hand over to you, and I stop my screen.
Thank you, Antonio. I'll start. My name is Katrin Muff. I work with Barbara, and we have jointly developed what we call the SDG Exchange. And our intention here is to both introduce to you briefly what this innovation strategy tool is about, and to hopefully also clarify in which way it is different from what was presented before. I think that's always something that is hugely important, and hopefully we can clarify that further also in the comments in case it is not clear after our presentation. Our attempt to compare the two tools is shown here. In many ways, Antonio has mentioned that already, where the Swiss Triple Impact Platform and the SDG Manager with the B-Lab assessment tool is in many ways an analysis of current business and strategic implementation based on the SDGs. What the SDG Exchange is attempting to do is to offer a pragmatic yet holistic process tool for businesses to identify kind of what we call positive impact solutions built on the SDGs for their business, often resulting in entirely new revenue opportunities. I think both together, I would say, really are great in enabling businesses to become purpose and future driven based on the SDGs. I've also listed here, just for your convenience, a number of other tools that are highly relevant, and that I'll address a little bit more as I will go on. Part of the challenge is for a company indeed to find the right tool at the right time, and all of us here are committed to help you find that right tool. So let me go into the SDG Exchange. We see it as a strategic business innovation for the SDGs. We have developed a 5-step process that we call the GRIPS. If you take the first letter of all these 5 steps: getting started, reframe, ideate, prototype, and share. Here, in order to help differentiate most with what the SDG Manager offers, we will focus mostly on the first 3 steps: the get started, the reframe, and the ideate processes. Prototyping is really a follow-on activity that a business undertakes once new opportunities are identified. And share is about reporting and communicating that we're not going to go into great details here today, and that we believe also are offered by the reporting of the Swiss triple impact. What the SDG Exchange doesn't do, it doesn't link to a national directory, as Jonathan mentioned, what Swiss triple impact does. It's not a movement. It is really designed for business, not for individuals, to provide a hands-on innovation tool built on both inside out and outside in business opportunities. I'll go into more detail for that. When we look at what a positive impact firm is, our research shows us that there are 4 elements that make them different from normal traditional firms. This is how the investors are aligned with the purpose of the organization. It is how the purpose is defined, like what is the position of the role of the organization in society, how the company is perceived by external stakeholders, and what the culture is about. Now, the challenge with this, we have found, is that it's incredibly difficult for companies to know how to actually influence these 4 sustainability dimensions. And what the SDG Exchange offers is an access to working on most of these, not so much the investor alignment, however, very much on the purpose, the external perception, and the culture of the company. So what there is, if you would look at what is the positive impact innovation strategy, there are 8 different action domains that are required in order to realize these 4 sustainability dimensions. And the SDG Exchange works very much on the positioning, on the engagement, and on the priority. It works less in terms of the integration, like how sustainability is framed in the organization and the governments, although these are indirectly influenced. So we'll go more into these 3 elements in the SDG Exchange. What we find interesting, I have a strategy background, is traditionally strategy has very much focused on what kinds of products and services a company delivers, and what kind of a market definition a company has. It has less worked on what is the external perception, what is the engagement with stakeholders, and internally what is the culture of the organization. I think increasingly there is an understanding that creating change in an organization goes beyond just introducing new products and services. And what the SDG Exchange is doing is really trying to address these 3 dimensions in a more holistic approach. So if I now focus on the 3 elements of the SDG Exchange, the G, you see that here on the top right, the get started, if you want. The get started is really about helping an organization understand where they are right now, less from an understanding, from this in-depth understanding that Jonathan talked about, of really doing an in-depth assessment where they are as the B-Lab impact assessment does. Here what we're looking at is we're saying, how ready for change is the organization? And for this we have a wonderful tool that we've adopted for our use, where we can understand the difference between the internal-external focus and to what degree an organization is stable or flexible. This generates a wonderful conversation at the management level to see, are we able to actually embrace a quantum leap change, or are we better off looking at incremental change? The same discussion opener for a conversation we offer with the second tool, which is an analysis of business typology. Here we look at the business sustainability typology that Thomas Dillig and I have developed, called Business Sustainability 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. We have an automated tool that allows a company to assess itself. This is very quickly done. This is, I would say, less than a half an hour exercise. It seeks to again, open a conversation at the management level to understand where are we actually? Do we actually agree how sustainable we are by looking at these criteria, or where are we and where would you like to be? And the outcome here really is that we clarify the ability to embrace change on one hand, and we identify the sustainability status for the company on the other side. So this is kind of a fantastic starting point for an organization then to say, where is our appetite and our capacity to innovate at this moment in time? You will receive the slides and we'll get the links to these, and these are freely available if you want to just test them. These are great initial kind of tests to see where you are and how telling the outcome of such a test is for your organization. The second step is we call reframe. Here, this is very much about differentiating between an inside-out and an outside-in perspective. The inside-out, I'm going to quickly jump ahead. At the inside-out perspective, as some of you may be familiar with, is looking at the SDGs from your current business. It is building on what your current business capabilities are, where you are strong, where you are weak, where you have immediate opportunities to reduce, for example, the negative impact. And on the other hand, the outside-in perspective, which is something that our innovation process focus on, considers what are your capabilities as an organization, your resources, your capacities, and how would they match with the burning issues that are out there. So there what we do is we use the gap frame to understand what are the burning sustainability SDG challenges that are out there, and we do a matching exercise to find out what an organization has internally as capacities to find out how to create entirely new business and products and services and new business models. If I go back to the reframe, so here what we do, here there's a variety of tools. For the inside out, the SDG Action Manager would be excellent. We have worked with also with the donut model that Kate Raworth has developed. The gap frame is useful to look at it. For the outside-in perspective, we find future fit particularly relevant to identify new opportunities that are not instantly relevant or within the current market and industry sector, specific sector analysis of the organization. And then what we do is really understand what may be recommended focus areas. This is an assessment step that is done in preparation for then what I would say is really the key, the transformative moment of the SDG Exchange. It is, if it's done in real life, a one-day innovation process that is called Ideate, or if it is done online, Barbara will go a little bit more into that, it would be done in three-hour sessions. And here what we do is, and we have seen that before, is we engage with the external stakeholders and we create an innovation space where not only the expertise of the company, but also well-meaning and well-intended external stakeholders contribute to a generation of entirely new ideas, creating what we call this golden match. This golden match is what are the burning issues out there and what is the company really good at. Barbara will go into some examples of such new, of what may come out of that once I am done with my step here and indicate kind of what opportunities can be created. The tools that we use is the collaboratory and the REFA calculator. The REFA calculator is really, again, a very quick and easy assessment of very different ideation ideas that come out at the end of this day. It has an ability to compare apples and oranges because it compares different ideas that emerge by looking at how realistic are they to implement, like what is the feasibility and what is the match with business alignment, and how relevant are they to the challenges that are out there. Are they indeed going to make a positive impact in society or not? And then they're allowed to kind of focus on the top ideas to go then into the prototype process, whereby an organization will now develop the business plan for such a new innovation idea. So with this, what I would suggest is to hand over to Barbara, and I'll be your
Okay.
slider.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for the introduction. What we'd like to do is share with you also some practical examples so that we can, that you get an idea of what is happening. So in this Ideate workshop that we suggest, we also say, well, there are 3 types of different innovations that can come out. The first one is what we call Horizon 1, is an optimization of existing products and supply chain. Horizon 2 ideas would be optimization of existing business models or product innovation. And Horizon 3 is really the development of the next generation of business models. And here underneath, you have examples of how this, what we understand under Horizon 1. If we look at the automobile sector, so Horizon 1 would be, we have cleaner cars, or we offer recycling of parts of a car, or we take back the car and see what we can do. If we look at the food sector, this would be the optimization of existing products, would be really making the products healthier. Whereas if we go to step 2, this is then really, we have suddenly new lines with clean, cleaner products. So it could be electric cars or hybrid cars or hydrogen cars. I think this is kind of upside down, but never mind. So the underneath is the one for the car. Or if we look at the food sector, it would be new lines with clean and healthy products. And then the same also for the car industry would be offering mobility services. And for the food sector, it is really, instead of offering meat, you would start to offer plant-based proteins, or you start also educating consumers about a balanced diet, or really ensuring that their consumption, or the footprint of their consumption, isn't as big as before. So what I'd like to show you now is also some examples. If we go to the next slide, concrete examples that you see, well, what do we mean by Horizon 1? Interface is one such example, because they are now making their carpets out of fishing nets, and they engage local people to get out the fishing nets out of the ocean, and then they make new carpets out of it. So this is really optimization of existing products. Or IKEA, it's kind of an example between Horizon 1 and 2. This is, we worked with them and did the SDG exchange process with them. And one of the ideas that came out of the ideation phase was, instead of selling furniture, mainly business furniture, that they started leasing it. And you may remember there was a big announcement last year where they really started with the leasing of the furniture, and they started with a trial test. And then if we go to the Horizon 2, there it's really optimization of existing business model. I think one really cool example, in my view, is the one from Bühler, where they work with another company to, they feed insects with compost, and then they use the insects also to feed chicken or fish, and you get the protein through the chicken and the fish that you can get through the insects. And it's quite interesting because they work with Protex, they are really focusing on proteins, whereas Bühler is a milling company, or they have milling machines, and then they can make, use both capabilities for this new insect technology solution. It's quite scalable, it's quite easy implementable in any country. And this is quite interesting. With LafargeHolcim, we also did the SDG exchange process, and there it was in El Salvador, where they said, actually, we want to look at whether we can generate new income in the affordable housing sector. And what was new about it was that this existed in other countries as well, but there they focused mainly on urban areas. Whereas here in El Salvador, they said, well, we want to offer affordable housing in urban areas. So they developed a new business model. How can we do that? They involved architects. They looked into what are options on how to build these houses. Can we do something with 3D printing? Can we use old building materials or rubbles? And so with that, they really opened up the new market. And I think the example for me, the best example to explain Horizon 3 innovations is the one from Climeworks. You probably all know Climeworks, who is capturing CO2 out of the air and is really also selling the CO2 afterwards as fertilizer, as fuel, or really as the bubbles for Coke or for your mineral water. And I think this is quite a good example of saying, also this outside-in perspective of saying we have a challenge, we have a CO2, we have a climate challenge, and if we take that CO2, we can use it for something else. So I think this is really what we aim to, and with that we just wanted to show you and give you some practical examples of what could come out of such an ideation phase in the SDG Exchange process. So what I wanted to show you that it becomes even more practical is just how could such a strategic business innovation process look like if you do it with us? And this is the example of an online version, because nowadays we do much more things online and it might be easier to fit it into your daily business. So the get started phase that was explained by Catherine also applies here. You would identify change readiness and the typology. You would need to set the SDG focus you want to focus on. And you need to identify internal and external stakeholders. This is something which we feel is really, really important. If you do such an ideation process, and if you want to come up with new strategic business innovation that address today's challenges, you need to involve external stakeholders. And this is really critical. And as Catherine mentioned before, we here in this process, this would be 4 3-hour online session where you also match your core competencies with the SDG focus areas, but you also think about where do you want to position your company in 2025 or 2030, and how can you contribute to this 10-year challenge that we have. Then you co-create prototypes for the future, and then you really assess the prototypes in collaboration, either with this REFA tool that was presented, or also really during a discussion with external stakeholders. So you would involve potential partners, or you would involve NGOs and civil society. Yes, thank you, Antonio. And the last one would be then really to think about what are now the next actions, how can we go into the prototyping phase and defining next steps. And then last but not least, you need to go prototyping. And then also, as Antonio was mentioning, you need to share, you need to inspire, and you need to advocate what you're doing so that others see this is possible and there is a business case behind it. So if we go to the next 2 slides, I have 2 more slides and we'll be pretty quick. I think here the added value, it's really on one side showing you that assessing your ability to change and to become a true business sustainability leader, translating the SDGs into local business relevance, but also really identifying strategic business opportunities, opening up new markets, co-creating new business ideas, but also what is really important, assessing the net positive impact. We really always make sure that there is a net positive impact and that you take it back, because the challenge or what often happens in such an ideation phase is people just look at the economic perspective and forget kind of to link it to the sustainability aspect. And this is really something we really want to do. So if we go to the last slide, and then I'm done, Antonio, and then we still have some time for questions, is what are your options? So you can do SDG Exchange either individually, as a company by yourself and just involving stakeholders, the ones that are relevant for you, or you can do it also in a group with others. It can be a sector-specific group, but it could be a group with peers that have nothing to do with your business. You then can do it either SDG specific. You can say, okay, we want to focus on biodiversity and we just do an innovation process in this round. Or you can do it sector specific. If you do it sector specific, clearly it has to be with members of the sector. You can do it face to face, or you can do it online. And what I just mentioned to you, we have this 4 times 3 hours online session, which we are offering also this summer. So if anyone is interested, let us know. And certainly the individual one, you can do that anytime. So with that, I hope we were able, I saw also there was a question, okay, how can I choose the right tool? We were able to address this as well. So it's really, I think, just to close our part as well, the SDG Action Managers helps really to identify also what are the strategic SDGs for a company. And we really want to, with SDG Exchange, which I really believe is very complementary, we help companies to identify new strategic business innovation addressing today's challenges that we are facing, which are reflected in the SDGs. So this would be our part, and happy to open up for questions or answer some of the questions. And you also have our contacts in the slide if you want to get in touch with us.
Thank you very much, Barbara. I think, and I hope it was inspiring and showing you where the different possibilities lay. And I'm quite convinced that they interlink quite well, and it's up to you companies to decide where you stand and what the next steps are. But now I would like really to open up the questions. Just take the word and intervene, give also comments as you want. We have some 5 to 15 minutes depending on your needs and well.
There is one question from Simon in the chat.
Okay.
Are there additional tools for specific SDG goals? For example, a CO2 monitoring tool for SDG goal 13 to stop global warming?
Who wants to answer?
Yes, there are several tools available on the market for that. Many of them are private. You will find on the FAQ of the Swiss Triple Impact website a series of tools. I doesn't want to promote one instead of another, but there is many one. There is also some initiative at the national level, like the My Climate, for example, that provide basic tools or introduction tools. But there is also much more advanced that are a fee-based tool that help to tackle that. The idea is always, and just for the question of monitoring. Knowing how much emission you produce is good because you start managing with figures. The point is not to compensate. It's really to tackle action that will reduce those emissions and really contribute to it. So sorry to not give a name, but I guess that's not the point here to give a specific name. There are many initiatives.
Yeah, there are many of Simon. Just in case you need more information, just contact us. We can give you some more details afterwards. Other comments?
Maybe Antonio, maybe I can just add, there are also specific initiatives, even from the UN Global Compact, addressing SDG 16, for example, and what does SDG 16 mean for business and how can business report about it or monitor it. So there are quite a lot of tools around.
Yeah, and you find also on the different websites. B-Lab is one, Global Compact. We have a whole series of climate issues. So happy to help you if you need that. Other comments or questions? Everything clear?
Fantastic. So let's get to work.
Yes, let's get to work. So, but yeah, that's fine. I don't want to prolong it.
Well, I mean,
if not,
I guess we could ask. I saw in the chat. I think Dani Frost from Tautsuki was saying, "Well, how can I choose the right tool?" I'm not sure. Did we answer that? Do you feel more clear about it now, or not necessarily?
Is it clear? I hope so.
Yes, he said yes, thanks.
Okay, that's good.
Just perhaps let me add something here, because and thank you for Barbara and Catherine for this extended explanation about what they offer with their process and their and the strategy. I guess I would say all of you, because I know that Antonio, you're also part of this. That's how we also connect with the circular transition economy project. We are partnering with many different initiatives. I mean, those are fully complementary, I guess. We are, as Swiss Triple Impact is providing kind of a backbone for measurement and benchmark and review of the performance for a public recognition. That's what, I guess, in a very glance we provide, and so super happy to connect the dot with all of those players, and I guess there is a lot of active organization and people and offer on the market for that, but the one that has been presented, I guess, is as I know Catherine for a very long time, and I know that there is a huge work behind and a lot of tests, and you've seen the case study. I guess this one is really relevant. So super happy to see this ecosystem strategy, and let's get to work together. I guess there is so many things to do. There is so many regions to cover. And we have a world to change. So
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, just last information. Do you see this slide?
Yes.
Just, I would like to mention, we try to start, we call it pre-evening dialogues for our members and interested people too. It's a closed, we let people in and then close it. It should be an open space to exchange. We start tonight with COVID-19. Alex Kunze from SECO will tell from the OECD event in Paris, and we will enter into discussion how do we handle as members and companies and other stakeholders working in the field this COVID-19 crisis. And on the 24th of June, we'll have an exchange with Gemma Iolfi from the Basel Institute on Governance on anti-corruption. As you know, anti-corruption for us is the 10 principle. It's important. We try really to create a platform, and this would be an opportunity to exchange. What does it mean for us? Where are we? What are our needs? Where do you see the challenges? It's daily business, but it's still very important because the movement we have globally is showing us new challenges. And we limit it to 1 hour. So pre-evening, it's limited. And if you have ideas you would like to propose, or even to have a short presentation and then enter into a discussion, let me know. Last but not least, we'll have the workshop on human rights due diligence. It's the 3rd step in our action we do. So if you're still interested, don't hesitate to contact us. And as you may know, we will have our Leaders Summit. It was planned in New York, the 20th anniversary of the Young Global Compact. We have now probably one of the largest online meetings. We have already 12,000 registrations. So it will be a 36 hours event around the globe from New York to Australia, New Zealand. If all the members have free access, and if there are potentials and interested people, just let us know, and I can still provide you a free entrance to it. So that will start on Monday, 2 o'clock, and will go to Tuesday night somewhere. And I would like to mention our help desk. We do with Catherine and others. It's not very active yet. We have to make new PR and marketing on it. If you have concrete questions, don't hesitate. You can Positive Impact Space, Global Compact Network Switzerland and Liechtenstein. We are offering that, so you can ask questions in 4 languages and you will get an answer to it. So just make use of it.
And it's for free.
And it's for free. And with that, I come to an end. Thank you very much. We were happy to have you here. So feel free to contact us. We will send you the slides or make them accessible. Fabienne will decide how we do it on the website or through email. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact us. Good appetite. See you soon again. And thank you very much also for the speakers. I propose we can have a chat next week because this day is completely booked for me. So I go to the next meeting in a quarter of an hour. So see you soon again, and thanks also for your contributions. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Thank you all as well. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.